like to give the prayer, please?
Yes, I mean, this can't be on video or anything. No, it's not video. This is Kevin's words. He just asked me to speak for him.
Okay.
Lord, I pray wisdom, peace, patience, and selflessness in the council meeting tonight. You, God, have your hand in all leadership, and I ask a favor on the elected officials and the folks they represent. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Your call to order at
Oh.
8:01.
All right, call the order.
No, we want to call it to order at 8:01. Call the meeting to order at 8:01.
Okay,
That's what you're saying.
we didn't do that last time, but that's okay. All right, let's call the meeting to order, and it
6:01.
is 6, yeah,
I said 8:01, I'm sorry. That's
Yeah.
confusing.
6:01. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want you to do the roll call, please.
Yes, ma'am. Trustee Smith, Mayor Howard,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hart, here. Trustee Schaefer,
Here.
Trustee Stahl, here. Trustee Wineland,
Here.
We have approval for the agenda. You guys all have. Okay, second.
first.
Trevor, and then a second from Jonathan. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Public comment. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. When you are recognized, please stand, state your name, and then professionally address the board. The Board of Trustees may not respond to your comments during this meeting. Rather, they may take your comments and suggestions under advisement, and your questions will be directed to the appropriate person or department for follow-up. Do we have anybody for public comment?
Okay, you are, all right, my 3 minutes. Yep, I'll try. To be honest, I don't even know for sure while we're here, but like, I've heard a little bit more, as we all do. Just heard that maybe there was something going on, possibly with changing of either table of uses or zoning tonight. So, unless I know that, I really can't, I guess, completely speak. I thought maybe I would know that prior to having the time to speak. I don't know what all's going on tonight, so I guess I can't say a lot if it is about a table of uses. Kind of interested in how that's gonna go. And if it's not about banners, I don't know how that's gonna go. Okay, well, I'm gonna shut up then, because maybe I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
I'm glad you joined us as a member of Main Street, though.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm just trying to be here.
Because we are gonna discuss.
Good.
What you guys are.
That's what our topic is tonight, is
Yes.
implementing what you guys did last week.
Oh, good,
and
okay.
What you identified as your priorities. Yes.
I actually couldn't be here in the
She
last
told me.
minute, yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. Banners, please. Okay, yes, okay.
Do we have anyone else?
I did notice that, we're probably remiss in adding a section on here addressing conflict of interest. So can I make a motion to, can you guys make a motion to amend the agenda, including a line item for conflict of interest, just so we can acknowledge that anybody at this table has a conflict with anything listed on the agenda tonight needs to be stated,
Okay.
and put on the record.
So move. Okay. Anybody have any questions, discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Is that good?
Yes, so we've made a motion, we've added it there. Now, is there any declared conflict of interest that anybody needs to make prior to proceeding with the meeting? Regarding the items that are on the agenda tonight? Bailey, do you have any conflicts?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, so we don't have anybody else for public comment?
Anybody online has public comment at this time? She was making a comment that she can't hear me. Huh? What? Debbie Olin was making a chat comment that she could not hear me. But we are on recorded audio. Bailey can hear me.
Okay, our item of new business, we're gonna have a discussion about the implementation of the strategic plan for the Kiowa Main Street Board and Town Center for the town of Kiowa. We've got a couple of members online from there. Joey's here. So, and Joe, yes, I'm sorry. I said hi when he came in. So who wants to start that off? Can you tell us what kind of work you gotten done? I was here for the first night, but I missed the second night.
Are the man, Joe.
And then speaking tonight, but I'm Joe Martell. I'm on the Kiowa Main Street Board. Last Wednesday and Thursday, we held a strategic workshop to lay the groundwork for the new board. We worked to establish a mission statement, vision statement, all those good things. One of the next steps was to start working on identifying strategic pieces or strategic projects that we would like to undertake as a board. And so that is kind of what has led up to this discussion tonight to identify that. Really, the concern, I think, I don't know if I characterize it quite as a concern, but I guess the consensus of the group is the restrictions, I guess, on where the commercial district for Main Street is. Obviously, we're landlocked, not a lot of potential for a lot of so to be able to identify the existing areas along the street and to be able to promote that, right, and be able to promote new businesses to come in and be able to grow a tax base, obviously, bring foot traffic into the town. So that's really where we're at right now. We haven't gotten into the weeds of what that looks like, but wanted to start that conversation. Is that about summarize it, Joey?
Yeah, I mean, I think we didn't get into it enough about that. I mean, to be honest, when we started this, I thought a lot of this was going to be more about, the streets and the drainage and that was more my idea. As far as buildings themselves, that's a tough one. We all agreed that we would love to see donut shops, apple pie shops, coffee shops. It's difficult. So yes, we didn't get into a lot about that, but it would be great if we could have that. I just don't know if that's possible this time. So we did discuss that. When can people at some point make a living? We need the roads and the infrastructure to be improved first.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is in the works, but
We have some Main Street members online. Do I have any Main Street members online that want have any comment toward your implementation of your strategic plan?
I mean, if anybody can hear me, I'm not sure because my audio's kind of cutting in and out with listening to you guys, but I think Joe echoed
what I would say, and it's the fact that we're trying to revitalize a main street. We have a very limited real estate base there with very limited opportunities. You can't necessarily build buildings out of nowhere. So we kind of have to work with what we've got. We've got to be smart about what we've got. And like Joey, I mean, I certainly thought we were going to be doing a little bit more of the infrastructure side. It sounds like that's already getting taken care of, which is great. So then we can stay on task with trying to bring people into Kiowa, trying to build up the town, trying to, let people know why they should visit the town of Kiowa over Parker, Elizabeth, any of the others. So I think from a real estate perspective, my main concern is just the highest and best use of what we have. We don't have a very big town, so we have to be very smart with what's done with it.
Hi, this is Erica with Echo. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I was wondering who iPhone was.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't. It took me a minute to get logged on there, so sorry about that, guys. I want to say I agree with what Main Street, what has been said so far. However, I want to make it clear that our Main Street board has not met except for the 2 workshops that we have had. So that being said, we haven't been able to sit down and collaborate and communicate with each other as to what our vision really is. So I wanted to make sure that that was put out there.
And then Jay has his hand raised. He's also a member of Main Street Board.
Hi, Jay.
Jay, you're muted. You're still muted.
He's trying to undo that thing. You can see him like poking the bus smile. I'm like, oh man. Okay.
Jay, maybe your wife can help you, Jay.
I was gonna say, maybe they might not be together.
Right.
He says go to the next person and he'll figure it out.
Okay.
Is there anybody else online? Deb Nom, you're with the Main Street Board. Did you have any comment at this time? Or Ashley Larson?
Nope, I'm okay at this time. I've kind of agreed with what's been said.
Jay, you're talking, but you're still muted, sir.
Poor guy.
Oh, there we go.
There you are.
I got it figured out. So I'm part of the Main Street Board, and I know I missed quite a bit of it being on the fire board and the stuff I had to deal with. But I'm kind of with Erica as well. We haven't even set up president. We haven't set up anything. So we haven't really had a time to clarify what was going to be said and what's going to be done and what our vision is go forward. We got a mission statement, we got those kind of things, but we haven't got everything set up. So, I see a lot of things jumping way ahead, and we haven't even been able to set a precedence of what we want. So I don't know that adding us to that letter was necessarily the most appropriate thing, because we may have a vision, but we don't have a solid, set anything. We haven't been able to really air that out. So that being said, I just want everybody to be clear that where we stand, that we're not necessarily one way or another at this point.
Madam Mayor, maybe you want to give some context, since Mr. Revere was the only one that referenced the letter. If you want to give some context as to what he's referring to, the letter that they were included on.
Is that regarding is he referring to what we were gonna discuss tonight with the ordinance?
The letter that went to the county commissioners.
Oh, okay. The whole reason for us kind of moving forward on this, and Jay, maybe this will help you a little bit. First off, I was involved the first night that these folks got together, and I'm very excited about the folks that are on this board. And gleaming from their conversations, we're looking to, which of course we as board members are looking for this as well, to have an attraction for more businesses to come to Kiowa. And yes, we don't have a lot of space for them, and we're gonna have to, sit down and look at, some of our zoning codes and such. But, we got, the reason we put this meeting together is we got a letter from the county commissioner. That, they wanted to meet with us. To discuss leasing buildings in Kiowa.
Specifically up in downtown center.
Yes, in
Commercial
town center,
properties up and
yes,
down
commercial
center.
properties, thank you. And, he was supposed to be here tonight. And he couldn't make it,
At the last minute,
yes,
the last correspondence we had from them was they had made the decision after we had tried to organize this meeting between the two boards and the commissioner and the county manager. And they had made the decision that they did not want to speak to either one of the boards.
right,
They wanted a less formal setting with just the mayor and I. And I had tried to explain to them already that the request was put forth by boards other than myself, and I've already had conversations with them quite a few times considering the same subject, and it's clear by their intentions lately that neither one of those conversations were regarded in any form or fashion. So the request was put in to have the discussion with the board now, and they made the decision last night when we were finalizing this meeting that they chose not to show up.
so that's kind of where we're at with this, and Jay, I hope that answers your question. That's why we're trying to move ahead here a little bit.
The board still wanted to talk between the boards.
Yes. So, I'm glad you guys are here so that we can discuss things. I realize that you haven't had a formal meeting and set up your whole board and everything, but in my opinion, and Joe and Erica and Jay and, Joey, let me know if I'm way out in the left field. But the feeling that I get from the Main Streets Board is we need to try and revitalize town center in Kiowa. And that is going to include being able to attract some other businesses here. We have lots of offices here. But that is no income generating to the town. You know, construction offices. They probably come to Kiowa because it's probably cheaper to rent an office here than it is in Elizabeth. But that takes up areas that are commercial. And that hurts the town then, because we're not getting anything in on it. Does that kind of make sense to everybody? Joey, you have anything?
Yeah, I would actually like to speak, I guess the podium's gone.
Yeah,
I'll
just
sit
sit there,
here
you're fine.
and talk. So the biggest issue I have with it is you guys know my feelings on right to your property rights. It's a fine line for me because I understand exactly what you're saying with bringing businesses to town that bring in revenue and people that will come and shop and eat and go to coffee shops and all these fun things. I just don't know that it's there yet. And to tell somebody who owns a building they can't do something with their building, it's kind of that fine line. I don't know legally where that stands. I don't know if there's a legal precedence by doing this, maybe that you guys can. I think it's questionable to me whether it's okay. Now, do I love the idea of coffee shop here, like I said, candy shop here and go take my bring kids to have a soda and a old soda shop, you know, and all these fun things would be great, you guys, but I've had a building that sat for a year and a half. It cost me, and this is not what it cost me not making income. It cost me in taxes, cause my taxes are outrageous on it. They molest you on taxes, excuse my language, don't get mad at me. They my taxes, my insurance is outrageous for commercial buildings. I have, maintenance on it, I have all of my utilities. Last year, it cost me $115,000 for the building to sit, not including my loss on not having someone in it. And as you guys know, I was upset when I couldn't do the daycare. Look, do I think it's perfect? No. I just have a hard time with telling somebody who owns a building that has invested their money that you want something else. You see what I'm saying? We all want something else
Yeah,
in the
but-
grand scheme.
we're not to the point where we're gonna say, Joey, you can't have a restaurant at that building. Okay,
Right, cause the one's
What-
already been approved.
what we're,
Yes, right.
well, even if it
Yeah.
hadn't, what,
Right.
similar to what the planning
Yeah.
commission did with limiting, one bar in town, one car dealership in town.
In town center.
Yes, thank you, in town center. That's kind of what we're trying to accomplish.
And I want you to know, I get it.
Yeah,
I'm not even saying.
but I mean, it's not,
With the vision, I just don't know that it's.
But
Right.
when I say something?
yes,
I understand where you're coming from, because you're coming from the part of a property owner and a business owner.
Yeah,
Where this board and myself are tasked with
sure,
taking care of an entire municipality.
absolutely. And I
So-
get that.
When there's a threat to the ability to maintain a revenue flow that could hinder the sustainability of this small town.
Sure,
And it really, and to be absolutely
it.
honest with you, it's not, anything to do with any individual business owner or property owner here. Really, what the issue, where it lies, is the fact that, and that's why we asked the commissioners to come here, it's the county taking up the very small commercial district that we are limited to in this small municipality and choosing to place their offices in any remaining limited spaces we have in that small commercial district, when there is plenty of legitimate county-owned property in and around this town that they can build on or occupy.
And I would like to know what the mission, what their goal is there. I would agree
We would
with
too,
that.
but we cannot seem to get them to the table
right.
to wanna talk
discuss
about
that.
it to the people that wanna know. I have expressed this concern to them in 2 other conversations
Yes,
with the county manager. He told me he understood our concerns and he's thankful that I shared them with him. And seemingly they have fallen on deaf ears because they have proceeded to do exactly what they suggested they were gonna do with no more conversation with this board or this office. They just went and did it.
Are we
Which
allowed
makes
to
us-
know, did they do, are they've already signed
the,
contracts? or-
the building down at the end, it's Kellogg Building,
But
isn't
at
it?
their own admission, they have already rented out space
Yeah.
in
and that-
one building and they've got a lease that is drafted and ready to be signed on another directly in town center.
And they, okay. I just want you guys to know, look, I don't want to have enemies in this town.
We don't
I
either.
want everybody to know, like, I have businesses here.
Sure.
I'm vested in this community. I've been here for 30 years. My kids have graduated from the school. It's just a tough one for me. Because I
understand
do
why,
understand how
yeah.
hard it is to make it in this little town right now.
Yeah,
So it's hard for me to, not say, cause they looked at my building. I think Kim, I've told you that
I think you
twice.
did, yeah,
And
the bank building.
the bank building,
Yeah.
and they wanted originally to buy it.
Mhm.
My building was probably the first one they looked at, actually.
Yeah.
They wanted to buy it, and I said, I can't sell it, cause I've got short-term liabilities and capital gains and all this. So I said, I can't do that, but I'd give you
Right.
first to buy it. To be honest, when I was showing them the building, I never reflected on the point or thought that they weren't bringing money to the table either.
And they knew that.
I didn't think about it like that, truthfully. I was just panicking to get it leased.
Sure.
Mhm.
And then when they came to me, they said, well, we won't
Understandable.
lease it, but we'll buy it. And then that was, there was a period of almost a year of them
Right.
changing their mind. But
Right,
at any
Right.
rate, I know they have looked at other buildings since, including Andrea. She did speak about that once to me. But you guys, it's just tough for me because I know how hard it is, and unless you know, you've ran a business, and maybe others of you have also, it's just tough. It's a tough industry, in this little area.
Which is why we brought on the Main Street Board. We
Absolutely.
created it and brought you on to try to fix some of these issues.
Right.
And,
And
that was part of the conversation we were trying to have with them. They wouldn't have a conversation with me, or at least heed the conversation I had with them personally and individually. So the board wanted to have a discussion with them,
Sean Fletcher,
Sean Fletcher and, commissioners.
I'm
And,
surprised commissioners won't listen.
well, they just wouldn't, for whatever reason, they wouldn't come to the table, and by their own admission, they've already acknowledged that they are already doing this. And it's not a matter of, how do I say this? The argument can be made, and it has been, that, well, you guys are still getting property tax from these buildings. That is true. We're still
They're
getting
just
property
leasing, they're not
tax
buying the building.
because they're leasing, but they are occupying a space that now does not allow us to attract any kind of local business here that would attract people to come to Kiowa and spend the money, to do
Mhm.
anything to improve our town center in a way that would attract people here. And if they keep stifling us on that ability to do that and create tax revenue flow for this town, sales tax, revenue flow to this town. And I mean,
Could there be a commitment from them that you could work out possibly? I don't know.
Well, that's what-
They
that's what
give
I-
back in
That's
some
what we
way.
wanted.
that's what we
tonight.
wanted, and they're not willing to
They're
come to
not
the
here.
table and have the conversation. They were all willing, they were telling us we need to do this sooner rather than later for them. And when we tried to do that, 24 hours later, once we got everybody
So they
assembled and
asked for this,
committed,
then didn't she?
Yes.
and then they turned around and said, at the end of the
That's why
day,
we're here.
we changed our mind.
Yeah.
We don't wanna talk to your boards.
That's a shame that they don't.
Here,
So,
They should
I'm
talk
sorry,
to us,
Trevor.
for sure.
here's. And I've given. A lot of thought, and I've looked at it from the point of the properties that are owned by. That are being leased, I've looked at it from the point of the town. And I've looked at it from the, near, short term and long term. And I've also looked through our emergency deal here. And the whole scheme of it, there's not a good answer. There's not. I mean, I think everybody, including the ones that are online, can come to the table and agree, there's not a good answer. Logically, this is what I think. If a building is office space and say they happen to lease that office space to, they lease it to insurance. They lease it to, county government. It's no different. It's still a commercial building. We still, from that standpoint, we have and the commercial tax base. This is where it gets, this is my concern, where the nose kind of is under the tin, if you will. Well, if we've leased it, now we wanna buy it. And then we want it to go, and that's where the real storm will be.
Meaning that there's no tax.
Cause we approved that use. And so, yeah, and that is, honestly, that is the highest. In a sense, that's a high rent district where it is. That is a high rent district. And from a guy that's a steward of the town in the future, I'm not saying it today, in the future. And I give up the high rent district, the best part of town. I mean, the realtors know location, location, location. They'll preach that all day long. I think they say it in their sleep. But I give that up to be the government, and this is the impact. This zero represents so that's the tug of war in my head. I mean, it's just no different than when, what used to be the Kiowa State Bank up here, when it came up for sale. You know, the first two people who walked into this building that were interested, I don't mean it personally, I'm just telling you, the first two, one was a member of the Baptist church looking at it to do a recreational facility, which is a need for the town. I get it, but it's the same deal. I forgot what it was worth to our annual budget at the end of the day, but you know, that was his deal. And the next one that looked at it was two county commissioners and a manager. And they got it. And so that was a lesson, in my mind, that's a lesson learned. It's no different than when we're going through with the planning commission, we're discussing town center. And we're very careful about how we did it with churches. We will allow them under special review. But at the same time, when you look at it as a steward of the town and you walk through that, nothing against the Lord Almighty, nothing against the church. I mean, hell, it could be a church of Scientology for, yeah, I'm not trying to pick, I should be careful, but we have to balance everything out. I don't know what the middle ground is. I've been trying to figure that out all afternoon. Soon as I got this resolution, I went through it and I'm like, all right, what's the middle ground? Cause I'm trying to figure it out. Cause at the same time, as if I have, which they're online, I have an office building that is office space. And I'm leasing office space. I don't know necessarily as a trustee of the town. I would say, no, you can't do that. Cause you already operate as an office building for office space. Okay, if it was, let's say, and hypotheticals suck, but let's just say it was a building that was retail. And they're like, hey, we wanna change this out, now it's gonna all be office space. Now I'm looking at it with a whole different pair of glasses. So these are the things in my head that I've been really trying to break down and go, all right, what's best? And I'm not trying to discredit your comment with the construction offices. I get that. But at the same time, those however many employees that are at the offices down there in Kiowa, that they go to either or gas station, either or restaurant, either or, you know, whatever, feed store, the bar on the way home, whatever. And they spend, because they brought those employees to the town of Kiowa. It is not a direct, but an indirect benefit to this town. So I mean, this is I just gave kind of the 10,000-foot view. I don't know what is the silver bullet. The part that I'm probably the most disheartened about was a particular county commissioner and a particular county manager wanting an emergency session. So I cleared some stuff to be here for that county commissioner and county manager.
Yep.
And after I did it,
And where are they at?
they retreated.
Yeah.
That's probably got me more upset than the other part. And the thing is, as we go through it, just remember this, as for the property owners, I don't necessarily want them to take the beating for their tenant. Which that happens.
Yeah.
So as we work through this, and I think we should dive into it, but as we work through it, I think we need to walk through all of it. And the other thing is too, is if it was a piece of ground that was up for sale to be sold to to government, or it has to go through our review. It absolutely has to, and we need to look at what that economic impact is. So that's, there, I just threw up everything.
Part of my problem.
Can I interrupt or can I have a piece?
Hold on, Scotty, hold on a second. Jay had his hand raised first, Debbie second, and then Scotty.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, sir. Jay, go ahead.
So I'm not in town. I'm the president of Lions Club. I'm on the fire board. I think you guys are in a very precarious position. I think you need to be very careful about what you do because you've already allowed construction businesses in town. You've already allowed apparently some of the county to rent some of the space in town. I think if you guys set something forward, it needs to be very careful and you need to do it from a set point go forward, not covering up anything that's going on currently, because that puts the property owner in a precarious position. And it also, just like Joey said, it seems like there's viable businesses that try to come in. And I don't know if it's this board or the previous people or whatever, but a daycare would have been perfect. It may not have brought a lot of income into the town, but a daycare is definitely needed out here. And I spoken to Joey, and one of the concerns was that it's a main highway right there. Well, if you go into Parker, there's daycares right off Parker Road. There's daycares right off Jordan Road. There's a main streets everywhere, and daycares are there. So you guys, as a board, just my advice to you is you guys need to be very careful about where you step and how you step, because it concerns businesses and people have a lot of money invested in this that's just sitting. And as a business owner myself, I own rentals in another state. When those rentals aren't making money, I'm not making money. I'm losing money. And Joey just said she's losing $100 and some $1,000 over the last year. I mean, that's crazy. And a lot of people, that would wipe them out. So that's all I had to say.
So I have a question. Why didn't the daycare go through?
The planning commission decided that the table of uses did not allow. In my vision, from looking at table of uses at that time, and I think Kim will acknowledge, was very skewed. It was very confusing. It wasn't really, I don't think, set right.
No.
And since then, they have changed it, and I have actually been told by the planning commission that they feel like they were wrong and that they should have allowed a vote, and it probably should have went to you guys second.
Yeah.
And it probably would have went through, because the state had already approved the building. You know, look, I'm trying not to look back on that and dwell on it, I really am. I was just pointing out that when buildings sit, it's a very expensive problem, and I can tell you right now, not to my husband's horn, but had he not been there for me to support me with this, my vision in this town, I wouldn't have survived it. He financially carried me on the building
So
for that.
I just wanted to clear the air because it seemed like we were being blamed for your daycare.
I think some people don't understand how the voting goes,
Right.
right? So it went to planning commission first,
And then it comes.
then it comes to you guys.
But if they shoot it down, it doesn't. Well,
Right.
It never
they
got,
could do a recommendation. I
And they
don't
didn't-
remember how that went.
they didn't.
That's because the
recommend it.
table of uses was.
Right,
still-
and that's when we
It
worked.
was,
on it
and
to
that's
try
when
and
we worked
change
on it to
Yeah.
change it.
It was
Yeah.
questionable whether it was allowed.
Patty, we haven't forgot about you.
Right, so
Yes.
my point being is I think what you guys are saying, you're getting, because maybe Jay doesn't understand. I do now after coming to so many meetings. It first goes to planning commission, then you
Yeah.
guys, you visually see it if they recommend it. Well, they didn't recommend it to you guys.
Yeah, I just
No.
wanted to clear the air because it seems like we were being blamed for,
Yeah.
all this
And
stuff.
it
It's like,
didn't, it
whoa,
didn't never
wait.
make it to you.
It never made it to you guys.
Yeah.
Well, when
Okay.
the residents, the citizens have things like that happen, whether it's planning commission or it's town board or whatever, it's the town period. So they're just referencing the town as a whole when they have grievances like that. I will say this real quick, Scotty. I'm just losing my train of thought, but we do have issues outside this existing, what we're discussing right now. And those were acknowledged during some of that strategic planning of some of our commercial properties being occupied by people who are not actually conducting business there. They're just living there. And those are issues that we're dealing with, but the code needs to be revised in a way that gives us avenues to deal with that. But also one of the things that came to light during the strategic planning was the fact that when we redid that zoning chart, for the town center specifically, things were removed from that therefore limited the area of town center further. There were ways to, correct that, discussed it with some of the members of the Main Street Board. But that would also require revision of chapter 16, which is our zoning. So there needs to be a revision of chapter 16 to deal with numerous issues at this point, which is why my understanding is we want this temporary moratorium so we can slow down this issue that we're having, figure out a way to get everybody at the table that needs to be having this discussion, rather than it be just Sasha and I, as it shouldn't be us, it should be you all. And correct those deficiencies so it's not causing issues with the local businesses. And frankly, for the town. So that's just what I want to say. Debbie, did you have something you wanted to say? You had your hand raised after Jay.
Yeah, I just want to say that when Town Center was created, none of those business owners were contacted or their property rezoned. They bought properties based on the previous zoning code and town chart. I see that Scott and I are the only business, Joey also, I'm sorry, Joey, and Erica, business owners in town center here. And I find that a tragedy that you guys would even consider passing an emergency moratorium that directly affects them without notifying them. So that's all. And I want to say that the building is for sale. So if somebody wants to tell me what they want to put in there, I'd like for them to buy it.
Scotty, go ahead.
Wait, he's done.
I'm like Debbie, I'm kind of floored and was unaware that any of this was going down, and surprised and glad that I got notified so I could be involved in the discussion tonight. I also want to remind everybody about how where the vacancy rate was with a lot of these buildings in town for the longest time as I can remember. And now the construction companies, us, Unbridled, Prism Builds, we've come into town and we've made these upgrades and renovated these buildings. And made all these improvements to improve the whole image, the entire image of the town. And now we're being told that we need to put in an ice cream shop or a soda shop or a trinket shop. Our building specifically in the past has been leased to the county. It's been leased to the health department, social services, or someone else in the past. It's built out as an office building. It's not built out to be a retail store of some sort selling trinkets. So I'm really surprised, and I agree with what Jay had said and what Joey had said, that I think we need to slow down and think about this, because I feel like there's going to be, I don't think there's going to be a lot of small mom and pop shops coming into town that are going to rent these spaces if they were available. And that's my thoughts.
Scotty,
Sorry, this is Erica. I wanted to say something if I could.
Erica, hold on just a second, please.
Oh, sure.
Scott, I just want to give you a little insight. I had a conversation with County Manager Fletcher specifically about your building. And I told him there was no issue as far as this office is concerned about them renting your building. The only concern is the fact that they're occupying a space that would limit the revenue back to the town. And his assertion was he's aware that there have been previous agreements concerning your building for renting it out previously with other administrations, other boards. And he didn't know where those were at, but let's revisit those so we can figure out a way to make sure that it's not causing a problem with the town and we're all working well together. That's how that conversation was left. And then he turned around and went and did that with no further conversation to us about this agreement, about anything moving forward. So I was aware, I don't know, I'm sure some of these people on this board are because they've been here for a very long time, way longer than I have. That they did previously rent space in your building. So that's not something that's a surprise to anybody. And I knew that he was coming there. I shared that with members of the board. Nobody had a problem with that. It's just the way in which the county has gone about this, and we're trying to figure out what the end game is there. Why is there no communication? Why are they not coming forward and having these discussions with us to figure this out? So if we can't get any discussion with them on figuring this out for the town, which is the county seat, then we'd want to slow it down to try to open up conversation with them to get it figured out. That's the conversations we've had in this office, and it has nothing to do with any of you guys, individually, personally, as property owners. And I just wanted to share that with you so that you knew that that conversation was already had about your building and it was left there. And we have no understanding as to why it was just left. And why they're hiding, seemingly, I should say, allegedly hiding from us.
Right.
Eric, and then I would like to say a few things.
Erica, the mayor, is giving you the floor.
Erica?
So just a couple of thoughts, kind of back to what Trevor had said and also back to Scott. You can kind of look at the town too, if you've got people movement within your town, whether that's construction companies, people coming out here to go to the bank, whatnot, that to me is better than having empty buildings. Because sitting and waiting for a coffee shop to come in or a pie shop, that it could look bad on our town. That's just something to think about. That's all I wanted to say on that.
Debbie has her hand raised.
Debbie?
I just want to point out that the funny thing is, my office was town hall for many years and the town sold it. So just want to point that out.
Understand.
Okay, I have a few comments. First off, we're not planning anything tonight that, oh, well, Joey can't have a restaurant in that building. She has to have this. Everybody has said we need to slow down. The purpose of this emergency ordinance that we're wanting to put in place, if the board approves it, is to slow down so that we can take a look at what we need to change in our zoning codes and such. And to be quite honest, I'm a little ticked off at the county as well. No, Joey didn't release her building to somebody and come in and say, oh, I want so-and-so to be there. But you would think the county, being a government entity, same as we are a government entity, would come to us and say, hey, there's a couple buildings we want to see about leasing. You know, be above board about it. Don't just, boom, here, we have this now. It's not available for anybody to purchase or lease for anything else. So the whole purpose of this, if this is a temporary moratorium, it's to put the brakes on everything, give us time, planning commission time, the Kiowa Main Streets Board time to iron everything out and make this compatible for everybody. Does that make sense?
I have a question. Is there a definitive time period on the moratorium or is it open-ended?
No, there has to be a time limit.
Okay.
There is a time limit in your ordinance. It's pending the resolution of the amendments discussions on chapter 16, the zoning of the town code. Or I believe the date, she set it out a date.
There is a date in there.
So it's either by that date or the revisions, which feasibly those revisions should have happened way before that date, which is set out for a year.
Yeah. Now, we can end it sooner than that.
Yes, at any time.
Yes. If we can get all these things ironed out. So I want everybody to be clear on that. This is a temporary moratorium. So that we can get things figured out before the ship goes sailing and we don't have a town anymore.
And I think it's noteworthy that this ordinance is not restricting you from leasing property.
No,
In any form or fashion, if you
No.
read it, it's not restricting
No.
you from leasing your property. So,
It's only so we can go through our municipal codes and
yes,
update and restructure
yes,
it again.
yes.
Yes.
Debbie, do you
Want
still
to
have
go
your
back
hand
and
raised or
rewrite
is that,
this
is it new?
16? Yes.
Debbie, do you have your hand raised again or is that from last time?
I do have a question. None of us have seen the resolution. It was not available and I am on the sunshine list and it was not sent out to me. So I would ask that you guys send that out, please.
So it is an ordinance, it's not a resolution. We can only pass an emergency ordinance. And this would be changing a law of the town, which is why it's being put in ordinance form. And it wasn't finalized till this afternoon.
Right.
Can
Because
can you explain why the agenda wasn't sent out on the sunshine?
So there was no packet that went out. So there was nothing to send you as far as a packet, but the meeting was noticed on the board out front, which as we've had 10,000 conversations about in other public meetings, that is statutorily our requirement by the state. That's declared at the beginning of the year. It was put on the homepage of the website as well as the calendar with the Zoom link for this meeting.
About 3:30 today it was. I'm just asking if you can please send the ordinance and the agenda that were supposed to have been sent to me by the sunshine rule.
We can absolutely send you this ordinance. And if it
Thank
would
you.
open transparency, if you would like, Mayor, I can read it out loud verbatim if you'd like me to. So everybody in this room and online is
Sure. I think
knowing
we should do
exactly
that.
what it says.
I think we should do that. Before we get to that, do we have any other public comment on it?
I'm here. This is Bailey. I apologize. I haven't been as vocal because I have little ones around that are vocal themselves. But some of the things that are rolling around in my head is that I definitely want to look at the viability of our town, absolutely. But the people in this town is what makes this town, and so that's why we are put in a really hard position because we want these people to be able to be in our town for a long time. So the viability is not just what our town is, the revenue that's coming in, but also what's going on for them. Just something that I've been thinking about.
So there again, and Kim, I will have you read this out. The name of the ordinance, it's ordinance number 4, series 2025, an emergency ordinance of the town of Kiowa, Colorado, establishing a temporary moratorium in town center for any additional businesses, offices, or other non-revenue producing activities and declaring an emergency for the town of Kiowa. Kim will read.
Okay. Whereas the town of Kiowa, Colorado is a home rule municipality existing pursuant to the laws of the Colorado Constitution and the Colorado Revised Statutes and the town's home rule charter. And whereas Article 6, Section 6.04 of the Kiowa Charter allows for the adoption of an emergency ordinance when the town board of trustees determines that the ordinance is necessary for the immediate preservation of public peace, health, and safety, and includes such a declaration within the ordinance and is adopted by the affirmative vote of 6 members of the Board of Trustees. Whereas pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute 31-15-103 and 31-15-104, and pursuant to the home rule powers of the town Board of Trustees has the power to make and publish ordinances necessary and proper to provide for the safety, preserve the health, and promote the prosperity, order, comfort, and convenience of its inhabitants. And whereas chapter 16 of the town's municipal code outlines the zoning regulations, establishes zone districts and permitted uses within the town. And whereas the Board of Trustees unanimously approved resolution number 13, series 2024, Town of Kiowa, a resolution authorizing the town administrator to seek Colorado Main Street membership with the Department of Local Affairs on October 1st, 2024, to provide financial resources, planning and cooperation with DOLA, so the town will benefit from scholarships, consulting, and training through the Colorado Main Street program. And whereas on April 8th, 2025, at the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Trustees, recognized, accepted, and appointed the initial Kiowa Main Street Board to implement the Kiowa Main Street program. And whereas the newly created Kiowa Main Street Board held a strategic planning work session meeting with Melissa Antoll of the Core Reflection Transformation and Talent Consulting on May 14th and May 15th, 2025, to identify strategic priorities that included reviewing economic issues in the town center, order of those priorities for 2025 and beyond, advance mission of the Main Street Board, and achieve the vision for each of the identified focus areas through the creation and implementation of the strategic plan for the town and its citizens. And whereas to ensure that the directives of the strategic plan are created and implemented, the Board of Trustees unanimously approved and established the Kiowa Main Street Board at its regularly scheduled meeting on April 8th, 2025. And whereas the Kiowa Main Street Board requires that zoning regulations and future development within the town center represent the vision and desires of the town residents. In order to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare of the inhabitants of the town of Kiowa, the town Board of Trustees finds it necessary to enact a temporary moratorium in town center for any additional businesses, offices, or other non-revenue producing activities until revisions to chapter 16 of the town's municipal code is adopted, or May 21st, 2026, whichever is earlier. Now therefore be it ordained by the town Board of Trustees of the town of Kiowa, Colorado, the following. Section 1, recitals incorporated. The above and foregoing recitals are incorporated herein by reference and adopted as findings and determinations by the town Board of Trustees. Section 2, temporary moratorium and delay enactment. Upon the effective date of this ordinance, the town of Kiowa hereby imposes a temporary moratorium and delay on the acceptance, processing, and approval of applications pursuant to Chapter 6, Article 4, business licenses, and any and all zoning applications pursuant to Chapter 16 of the town zoning code regarding any and all business in the town center zone district. This temporary moratorium and delay shall automatically terminate upon the adoption of an updated Chapter 16 of the Town of Kiowa Municipal Code, or May 21st, 2026, unless terminated earlier by the Town Board of Trustees, or extended in its duration by enactment of another ordinance by the Town Board of Trustees. Section 3, exceptions to the moratorium. Any pending application which was submitted on or before the enactment of this ordinance. B, construction of any residential or commercial building as allowed as a use by right. C, additions or renovations to an existing residential or commercial building. Section 4, declaration of emergency. In accordance with Article 6.04 of the Charter of the Town of Kiowa, the Town Board of Trustees finds and determines that this ordinance is immediately necessary for the preservation of the public peace, health, or safety, because the current development and subdivision regulations are outdated, and continued development can drastically impact this town. The Board of Trustees further determines that the adoption of this ordinance as an emergency ordinance is the best interest of the citizens of the town of Kiowa. Therefore, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately upon adoption of this ordinance if approved by an affirmative vote of 6 members of the Town Board of Trustees of the town of Kiowa. Section 5, direction to staff. Town staff is hereby directed to refuse to accept for filing and not to process or review any new applications of any business license applications for proposed businesses in town center. Town staff are also hereby directed to refuse or accept for filing and not to process or review any application in town center as further outlined in this ordinance. Section 6, severability. If any provision of this ordinance or the application of such provision to any person or circumstance is for any reason held to be invalid, such invalidity shall not affect their provisions or applications of this ordinance, which can be given effect without the invalid provision or application. And to this end, the provisions of this ordinance are declared to be severable. The town board of trustees hereby declares that it would have passed this ordinance and each provision thereof, even though any one of the provisions might be declared unconstitutional or invalid. As used in this section, the term provision means and includes any part, division, subdivision, section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase. The term application means and includes an application of an ordinance or any part thereof, whether considered or construed alone or together with another ordinance or ordinances or part thereof. Of the town. Section 7, safety clause and authority. The town board of trustees hereby finds and determines and declares that this ordinance is promulgated under the general police power of the town of Kiowa. And that is promulgated for the health, safety, and welfare of the public, and that this ordinance is necessary for the preservation of health and safety and for the protection of public convenience and welfare. The town board of trustees further determines that the ordinance bears a rational relation to the proper legislative object sought to be obtained. The town board of trustees further finds, determines, and declares that it has the power to adopt this ordinance pursuant to I, the Local Government Land Use Control Enabling Act, Colorado Revised Statute 29-20-101, Section 8 publication. The town board is ordered to publish this ordinance in accordance with Article 6 of the Kiowa Town Charter. Passed unanimously and ordered published, said publication of the ordinance by title only, published once in a local newspaper of general circulation, and with the entirety of the ordinance also posted at town hall.
You can. Anybody have any questions on that?
I do.
Okay.
If there's a building that is already office space, and it is going to continue to be office space, how does this ordinance affect that said office space?
I don't see where it does.
It doesn't affect it because
Just-
that's in there.
I
Yeah,
I don't see what it does.
For clarification.
right. So I noted that because you brought that up with the last time we did an emergency moratorium,
Right.
because we had the school and, I'm sorry, the museum and the bank going at the same time. So those were already in the process. By language of the ordinance, it would preclude them, but you asked to have them specifically listed in there.
Okay.
So that they weren't, but if you look at section 3, exceptions to the
Yep.
moratorium, it's advising, the construction of any residential commercial building is allowed by use, any pending applications submitted on or before this ordinance. And anything in additions or renovations, to any existing residential commercial building, so it doesn't affect anything that's already in place.
I will state, part of this has come not only with just, what the county has done, that they wanted this meeting, but, we need to try and accommodate. I know that Main Street's board hasn't had a meeting yet, but the purpose, in my knowledge, and I believe the board's knowledge, is that, the Main Streets Board is to help revitalize the town. There were questions brought up of some of the codes and such that are currently in effect. And we need to sit down and take a look at them. So there again, we're slowing this down by putting this temporary moratorium in place so that we can take a look of the zoning and that kind of stuff. And work forward to be able to help Main Streets out as well. Are there any further questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Got a question.
Who's that?
I think that's the
What's Kelly? Okay, Scotty, hold on just a second, please. Trustee Schaefer.
I'm underlining it here. There's, I would just want clarification on this, because I don't quite get it. Section 6, severability, in the middle of the paragraph. It says the town board of trustees hereby declares that it would have passed this ordinance and each provision thereof.
Hmm.
Even though any one of the provisions might be declared unconstitutional or invalid.
I asked, our general counsel that specific question
Yeah.
on that
Can you
sentence.
clarify that for me?
She said it is a legal, clause in there, that protects the town. That's the extent of that conversation that I had with her. It's a legal, clause that they put in these,
That part was in our other.
yeah. You're always in the emergency.
Yeah, in the
Ordinances.
emergency.
I'm not a lawyer. We didn't invite her to this meeting. We didn't feel she was needed. It was a discussion. It was supposed to be a discussion meeting.
Yeah.
So,
Scott's got a question.
I'm sorry, Scott.
Two questions. What, how, is there a way we can get a copy of this, ordinance that you just read? Is that something that can be found on the
Yes.
town website or?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. If it's passed tonight, it goes to the newspaper, and is posted, as a public notice in the paper by title only. And then I will absolutely put it on the website, so it's accessible to everybody.
Second question, in relation to what, Trevor's comment was just, momentarily. Your answer was regarding offices, if there's a building such as ours that's already built out as office space. What, can you clarify what your answer was? Because the way I understood it, this won't affect it, because if it's office space already, why can't it continue to be office space?
There's nothing saying that what you currently have in place is gonna be changed by any of this. All of this is saying is, we're going back to the table, looking at the zoning code as it relates to, town center specifically. And fixing the deficiencies that seemingly are in there now. It's not changing anything. If you have, people occupying those offices and they're being used as offices, they stay as offices. This in no form or fashion is going to change the town code. And then retroactively, we're gonna come in and say, now you can't do that. You can't, we can't do that. So
We just don't want to put a slaughterhouse between two restaurants.
Can I
that's
throw out,
accurate.
I mean, it'd be more appropriate under this scenario, let's say Patty Ann's
Okay,
decides, this is what address that. If Patty Ann's decides tomorrow that they want to become an office complex instead of a restaurant, that's what this addresses, am I correct?
correct.
So the ones that are offices stay as offices, just like ones that are bars stay as bars.
I think what he's asking though, you guys, if I might say,
Yeah.
from a layman's point, because I'm kind of
Sure.
hearing this from him, and maybe what I'm even thinking is. You're saying that his office space can remain an office space. Does that mean then he could actually let the county rent part of his office space as long as he's still in it? As space, because it's already they are already there?
Yeah.
Mhm.
they're
I
already
did not
there.
know that, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, so as it stands right now, he's going to be able to keep that even in this emergency.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes, right.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am. Debbie? Debbie, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, so I guess my question then would be, are you going to require them to have a business license for that office? Is that how they will be?
Which we already have. We already have a business license.
Right, you do, Scott, but the county doesn't have one for your address.
Okay.
And I don't have one. I have Lifetime Properties has a business license. But if the county needs a business license for that office, also, does this moratorium stop them from getting a business license for that office?
Well, we aren't taking any more business license applications at this time. So that's a conversation we need to have. I don't have Ruth here.
Okay, so is that how, Kim, I'm just being direct. Is that how the town proposes to keep the county from moving into an office and not being able to function out of it?
Anybody occupying a commercial space For the purpose of a business in the town of Kiowa is required to have a business license. Yes, Ms.
By
Olin.
our town ordinances.
So that's exactly it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So they can't take up space in any other, is that, so like say they came to me right now. And I was using that bank for office space, it was always office space. I could lease that to them right now, or I could not, because we're doing this.
You could lease it to them, but they need to come to the town and have a conversation with us on how they
First.
plan to conduct business there, yeah.
Right. The emergency one is maybe trying to change that.
From you leasing to them? No.
Well, because it says to a
Plug your glasses.
non-profitable. Right?
It
A
has no,
business, it says Center for
it
Additional.
has to do with issuing them a business license for a business that is non-revenue
Right.
producing.
Right. So you're not necessarily stopping people that aren't producing an income or tax
No, ma'am.
money. You're just trying to,
No, and that's not, we're not looking to put the construction offices out or the realtors out or anything. Like I said, we need to sit down and look at our zoning codes. And of course, we want to do that with the Main Streets Board as well. So that we can figure some ways maybe to come up with some answers, like Trevor said. I don't know what the right answer is. So we need to put the brakes on everything right now and get that figured out.
In the commissioner's words, he needs to come to this building and have a conversation with us sooner rather than later. To
Yeah.
let us know why they haven't done so beforehand, and we need to start working together to get this resolved. Right now, I'll be absolutely honest with you, we'll be absolutely direct, right back. The impression they're giving us right now is they're strangling us out. And we're trying to figure out why. They've got property at the fairgrounds, they got property over off Pawnee. They've got property off the mobile home park that they can purchase and build on. They've got property all around and in Kiowa. So why the intent to lease up all of the commercial property? We don't understand, and we're not getting answers to that. The only answer I'm getting is it's not cost effective for us to build from the ground up. But you're willing to buy a building for $500,000. But you're not willing to build a building for $500,000 on your property. Why are you insistent on coming down the only limited commercial district we have for this town? And occupying every single building, rather than use your own space to do so? We can't get an answer from them. And when you can't get an answer and they're hiding from us, when we're requesting an answer from them, it leaves you with only being able to make a suggestion in your head of why. So what this is essentially doing is telling them, sooner rather than later, you need to get in front of us and tell us what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what your intentions are moving down the road.
Long-term standpoint.
I'm not gonna say who said who and point any fingers, but when we're negotiating our lease with the county, it was brought up on many occasions that they have full intentions of building to the, in the vacant ground that's to the west of the existing courthouse. Just being transparent and throwing that out there, so, that's all I know. I don't know any of the details or anything like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Real quick. On a long-term trajectory, if you think about it, Kyle was in a unique situation. From the standpoint, we're somewhat landlocked by a large landowner that is, a lot of that has gone into a conservancy. So there's not a lot of area for growth there. The commercial frontage is highly limited. If we cannot function or maintain a healthy financial situation moving forward, to the point, I think we could be stewards of it, but it might be painful, but if we were to unincorporate, because that was a threat a few years ago when I was sitting on this board and we were looking at bankruptcy. And, well, if we unincorporated, what would that do? Well, if we unincorporated, the county manager and the county commissioners have a whole hell of a lot of challenges of how to get in their county seat moved to incorporated town. Cause by Colorado statute, you have to be an incorporated town. So that's a long forecast, if you look at it that way. So they're not doing us or themselves, in a sense, much favors if they decide to continue to acquire land inside of the city limits of Kiowa
Or along the main street.
and damn sure along the main street. So, and, you know, I, this is, this ordinance, we need to have the conversation. And the other thing is, you know, and I'll state very right now publicly, this conversation needs to be with us. It doesn't just need to be with, and I'm, cause I don't want you two in that position. They want a conversation with just the mayor and Kim. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Stand up in front of all of us. And I wanna see the three of them shoulder to shoulder, cause I don't think all three of them are on the same page. Along with their county manager. So with that, I'm gonna move forward so we can go home and make the motion to approve the emergency ordinance. 04 series 2025.
Okay, we have a motion. I think Tammy seconded it. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
To do a poll vote, Mayor?
Pardon?
Yeah.
Do a poll vote.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. The roll call vote. Okay, will you do that, please?
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Mayor, Mayor Howard.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hart,
Yes.
trustee Schaefer,
Yeah.
trustee Stahl,
Yes.
trustee Wyland.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
I don't know if this is something that could be discussed now or at a later time, but just so everybody would be informed in like the rest of the town, obviously we're looking at a year right now until it resolves earlier. When would we want to like discuss something like that, or are we still just, trajectory a year for the moratorium?
We will start immediately with conversation with this. Am I incorrect?
Yes. We will.
We'll start immediately with it. It's, the hope is to get it resolved as soon as possible.
Right.
That's only limited by the communication and the given availability on behalf of the other half. Does that make sense, trustee Wyman?
Yes, that answers that.
And this, and if I'm. That and the zoning reconfiguration.
That's what the whole,
The whole
that and
Yeah.
conversation with them, because that it's directly related to
Yeah,
Yeah.
them, yes.
so it's not just about one thing, it's about the
Correct.
whole package.
Yeah, and I'll be, one thing I'll bring to light that came forth from the strategic planning as well is the revisions we already did. Like Debbie said, there's a lot of issues with it. It essentially stopped our town center here at Town Hall. So we have people sitting on our Main Street board now with structures
That aren't even.
that aren't benefiting from Main
Oh,
Street.
yeah, from Main Street, yes.
The museum and the old bank building that they just moved out of.
Why can't it be both sides all the way down?
It should be, and that's the
And that's
difference.
something-
Yeah, that's something that we can work on, you know.
That doesn't really make any sense.
It doesn't make
Right.
sense.
So that's one thing we want.
That's why we're
Yeah.
putting the brakes on.
Yeah.
so that we can
Exactly.
make
So
it
we
all
can
right.
fix that, so we're trying
It,
to.
it's my understanding that the original intent for this town was the entire stretch of 86, which is the town center, should have been town center. And at some point, through revisions to the zoning code, it ruin that in some form or fashion, and we need to correct that. Because that's how it's supposed to be. And we need to fix it, and we need to fix, those other issues that we're having with buildings that aren't being used to help benefit the other local businesses that sit directly around them. We have things to correct, and, it's for all of your benefits, we're not trying to hinder you in any form or fashion. You guys have identified some of these things as obstacles for you doing, business, so we did that to you, and we need to fix it.
So, pardon my ignorance, but what exactly is the boundaries of what they're calling town center?
Well, effectively, it should be from Elbert Road to the post office.
Yeah,
But because we
Exactly.
just did the revisions on the zoning matrix for town center, and we removed single family residents and multifamily residences. Well, you really don't have any of those left down here because they've all been made into businesses.
yeah,
They're all over here. So when we remove those from a use in town center, we stopped town center right here.
Yeah.
Because nothing from here
So
back now
for the
is
piece.
allowed under our zoning for town
And,
center.
and if we can get that changed, it's not gonna affect the folks that own houses and such, other than the fact, if they decide to sell it, it can be sold as commercial or residential, either
So it
way.
wants to be sold as a business,
right.
then it could be.
That's
But we
what
have
it's
to,
helpful
we have to,
problem, right?
we have
Yeah.
to revise.
Yes.
Yes.
Our problem with the shortage.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Time. Yeah, cause how many houses, anybody ever counted how many houses are technically not
No,
commercial?
no, and if I remember right, part of your discussion in your strategic plan was doing an inventory of,
We'll do that,
yes.
Joe, right, we'll do that.
So, I mean, that's one of the identified issues that we need to work through that will help the town and everybody else, but, at some point in the past, it was made that way and it needs to be corrected.
Yeah.
So,
Motion to adjourn.
So
Okay,
So-
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. We are adjourned
thank you
at
guys.
7:23.